So Donald Trump, for some reason, met and was interviewed by the National Association of Black Journalists. You could not imagine a less positively disposed crowd. Now, the reason why this is happening is almost certainly because of Georgia. Like, that's literally it. I know it seems dumb, but for those of you outside the United States, because of the Electoral College, the only states that matter in the presidential are swing states. Literally, that's it. If a state is not a swing state, it doesn't matter. No one cares. Texas, Florida now, unfortunately, New York, Kansas, California, most states are pretty locked in on their preferred party. There are only a few real swing states. One of them is Georgia, which Trump won in 2016, but Biden won in 2020, in large part due to the incredible work of Stacey Abrams, the political advocacy that she was doing. You've got Michigan. You've got your fun time states. I bet you anything, the reason Trump is doing this is for Georgia. Georgia has a very, very large black population. What's more, Atlanta is, maybe I speak hastily, folks. I am not but a white boy. Confirm my statement. Kind of the black cultural capital in the United States, right? Like, I don't know, man. If it's not then it's really up there, It's really up there. I'm not here to compete. I'm not saying Louisiana too, no. Nice try. Louisiana isn't a city. Harlem's a neighborhood, not a Okay, guys, when I say cultural, okay, reel it back. Pull it back in. No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Okay, let me qualify the statement a little bit. Okay, Atlanta is a black cultural capital. There we go. Okay, there we go. Can't argue with that one. Remember, it's EU time. Oh, shit, you're right. Yeah, I've got like 20%, 30% of the people in VGG right now are Euroids. They have no idea. Is Louisiana a black capital?
Good afternoon, NABJ, and welcome to a conversation with former President Donald Trump. This discussion continues a decades-long tradition during election years of inviting journalists to discuss the policies and their impact with the candidates who are running for president and the impact of those policies, especially in black communities. Former Presidents George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton have attended the NABJ conventions either as presidents or as presidential candidates in past years. NABJ is currently in conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris's team to schedule a Q&A either in person or virtually in September. As journalists, we use opportunities like these both to inform our reporting, but also to help voters understand the choices that they face in a consequential and historic election year. NABJ has partnered with PolitiFact to fact-check this conversation in real time. You can access that feed on social media using the hashtag NABJFactCheck. Again,
sure would be nice if they did that for all of the presidential debates.
The hashtag is NABJFactCheck. We have a lot to get to, and we do not want to waste any time, so let's bring out the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump.
Former President Donald Trump, the shade. Okay, this is copyright.
Addressing the elephant in the room, you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir.
You're racist.
A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort.
Nick Fuentes, well, hold on. Trump has had dinner with hundreds of white supremacists. She's just referring to Nick Fuentes here.
So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, Why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
This is the first direct engagement with Donald Trump from a journalist that I will not call journalistic malpractice. Thank you, NABJ. You know, that there's no any pretense of neutrality like gives credence to the idea that this guy should be treated fairly. You know, well, I guess I should say fairly treating him is unfairly treating him, if that makes any sense. Like, treating him neutrally and treating him fairly are very different, you know? You can neutrally apply the law and sentence, like, a giga pedo rapist to prison, you know? That's fair. It's not an impartial decision, though.
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner.
Such a nasty woman.
First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And
wow, it's got right up. And already right off the bat, there's no reason for him to be here. Literally, he came here in an attempt to appeal to black voters because they don't want to lose Georgia. Right off the bat, she opens with, the man does not have a diplomatic bone in his body. She pressures him just a little bit. Instantly, he's like, okay, whatever. I'm just here to argue with people.
I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this
I shouldn't pause every time he says something funny. We're never going to get through the video.
country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and, you know, and I say this, historically, black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further.
So notice he hasn't answered any of the questions or anything that was sort of posited there.
I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said...
Ooh, oh, wait, okay, hold on. This is drama that I'm unfamiliar with. Okay, hold on. NABJ posted July 31st. The organization is in conversation with Kamala Harris's campaign schedule. Okay, wait, what promise was made for Kamala Harris to be here? Does anyone know? Is there like any credence to that? He's lying. I know he often lies, but it would be a weird thing for him to lie about with absolutely no, like that wouldn't be a sensical thing to lie about, you know? I don't see any info about it. Oh, well, whatever. We'll continue.
You can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe
I have answered the question.
Trust you with another
I have been the...
Somebody in chat said the reason that it started 30 minutes late and why she opened with, thank you for giving us an hour, but this video is 36 minutes long, is because Donald Trump objected to the use of the fact checker or something like that.
Best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including...
This is a disaster. This is perfect. The only people this appeals to are white people who enjoy watching Donald Trump talk down to black people. And all of those people are already voting Trump, 100% of them. This is not at all to the benefit of the broader electorate. I can tell you that much.
Republicans on Capitol Hill have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead.
How do you
define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir,
of
I'm
that.
asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define the.
You were the one who said she was a DEI candidate. Why would she have to define your language? He's so mad.
Define it for me, if you
I
will.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
She turned black.
So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified as a black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she...
I've actually seen a lot of discourse about this on social media. Like, the right-wingers are obsessed with the narrative of people of color gaming the system by using their racial identity as like a tool to get ahead unfairly. So the narrative now is that Kamala Harris was always an Indian woman, but only became black when it was politically expedient, which begs the question, do conservatives know what mixed race people are? Like here, for instance, I saw this one right here. She's always been black, classic black family photo. Kamala Harris is black and Indian. So, you know, she's biracial. A ton of people in America are biracial. Really proving they're not weird. Really weird behavior, yeah, genuinely. Do you think they understand intersectionality? It's not even intersectionality. It's not even remotely, but you got to understand, right? The concept of a mixed race person actually doesn't really exist in the GOP framework, right? It doesn't exist in the fascist framework. Do you think Nazis believed in mixed race people? They believed in mongrels. The fascist, the white supremacist, their attitude, it's the one drop rule, right? Barack Obama wasn't half white, half black. We all colloquially understand Barack Obama to be black because our understanding of race in America is informed heavily by the whole one drop thing. There's nothing that makes Obama necessarily more genetically black than white. It's just how we think of things. With Kamala Harris, you know, black and Indian, it's like a different dynamic, but nonetheless, it proves once more the dynamic, the way we think of race. It's not like a genetic thing, because if it was, then Obama would be as much white as black, to the extent that genetics are even applicable in the context of race, which again, as we know, racial groupings are unscientific. We all know what, you know, it's the Kleins, folks. Look up the Kleins, K-L-I-N-E-S. We're not going over the race science thing again. It's not 2019, all right? I did all this. I learned all this. We did the debates, okay? They are obsessed with the idea of these categories being used and weaponized by people of color. So now the narrative, I guess, is that Kamala Harris is faking being black. Phenomenal, by the way, for winning the black vote. Phenomenal strategy for winning the black vote. Somebody in chat, I think it was Funny Rhetorician, said that it seems the Republican strategy is to win over black men, specifically the like hustle, grind set, hyper misogynist, fresh and fit type of black guy. And, you know, that might play a bit. I will say, however, men have always been the weakest link. Let's be real here, folks. Some woke white people won't say it. I'm going to say it. Black men have a problem with misogyny, and they get led around by the nose by it. Holy shit. You've got these motherfuckers out here voting for people who would put them back in chains because they hate women that much. That's crazy, man. You saw a video of a girl, like, twerking in a club that was shown to you by a right-wing grifter when you were 13 years old on YouTube. And the grifter was like, this is why women are hoes and thoughts now. And you were like, damn, that's right. I will now vote for a Nazi. Thank you, white person. Like, all right. Whatever, man.
He obviously doesn't, because she was Indian.
Klein is spelled with a C. Am I mixing it up? Then what's spelled with a K? Is Klein really spelled with a C? Maybe I do need to go back to 2019.
all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask, continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length, and we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that.
Well,
interview.
you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country. And as you were coming today, we really got to see that we are divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender.
They're really going for it? Oh man, they're really going for it. From Laura Loomer. And this is a copy of Kamala Harris's birth certificate. That's crazy, man. They really can't help themselves. They do realize the birth certificate thing with Obama only helped the Democrats, right? Like, the birth certificate hysteria with Obama might have actually... First of all, that got Trump involved in politics. Trump got really, really hard into the Barack Obama isn't a real U.S. citizen. The birth certificate proves it. And that led to him getting made fun of by Barack Obama, which arguably spurred him to run for the presidency. That was genuinely like the starting point of American, like modern, like the MAGA era of American political history right there. Yeah, we're coming back full circle. They do realize, however, the birth certificate hysteria only benefited Democrats, right? Like, Obama won by pretty wide margins. They don't have biracial fields on the birth certificate, do they? No. You literally... Well, wait, they might now, but Kamala Harris's birth certificate would have been from, like, the 60s. Like, yeah, back then you probably just chose, like, I don't know, Angloid, Mongoloid, Negroid. You're just checking off. Like they have like a checkbox right next to a crude pencil drawing of the different skull shapes that you might be or something. I don't know. Normal, comma other. You joke, Vosh, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm only kind of joking. It literally says Jamaican on the right. We're looking at a screenshot of a screenshot here, folks. Oh yeah, right there. Jamaican. Kablamo. So wait, what are they referring to here? Father of child. Donald. What does it mean? Jamaica. Wait, hold on. What is this meant to prove? Hold on. Twitter, Laura Loomer. God help me. Dude, Donald is literally posting this shit. Thank you, Kamala, for the nice picture you sent from many years ago. Your warmth, friendship, and love of your Indian heritage are very much appreciated. They're so weird about race. They're weird. They can't help themselves. What point are they trying to prove? Am I meant to look at this photo right here and just get a once over, like take a look and go, yeah, Kamala Harris doesn't look black in this photo? Is that the interpretation that I'm supposed to take from it? Am I supposed to look at this photo and go, oh yeah, no. They're so hopped up in their own shit, they genuinely believe this here. Yeah, like, it's genuinely insane. Like, by insane, I don't mean that euphemistically. I mean, like, this is mass hysteria. It's mental illness. I understand it's racist. I don't even understand how... Like, I don't understand what kind of racism they're trying to do outside of black people are liars and deceivers, and they will use race to pull out one under from you as a white person. Like, that's all I can... That's the only, like, point that I can think of there. Okay, so, anyway. Bitch, we have your birth certificate. Jamaican or not African-American, that's the point for them. The post right here says you aren't black. But the birth certificate right here says birthplace, Jamaica. Color or race of father, Jamaican. Are Jamaicans not black now? The point that's being highlighted is that Donald is a white name. That might actually be the point. They might actually think, like, Donald is a white name, so that's a white person in Jamaica. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. All I can really say is, GOP, as your campaign strategist, please keep posting this shit. Please keep posting. I beg of you.
And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming...
The National Association of Black Journalists. He's got, you know, hey, PolitiFact. You got something to say about that one? Didn't think so. Didn't think so.
Coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs.
He's doing it again? He's doing it he's doubling down? All right.
You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
Mr.
they're taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people. I have a feeling
80, 90, 100, 20, 100 billion, a billion people, the entire population of the planet, folks. They're all coming up through the southern border, okay? They're all getting squeezed out into El Paso.
it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that. And Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So she was a border czar. She's done a horrible job. These people are coming into our country, and they're taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs, and frankly, they're taking union jobs. Unions are being very badly affected by all of the millions of people.
Undocumented immigrants are getting union jobs. That's a, yeah, the median undocumented immigrant is a guy from like Honduras or whatever who ends up getting $60,000 a year at, for, you know, like at a car plant under UAW, you know? That's so true. That's so true.
That are pouring into our country.
Wait, hold on. I think their point was that under the mother it says Caucasian for Kamala Harris. Yeah, but the mother is the Indian side. So that would actually further prove the point that can't be the point, because their whole point is that she's Indian. So that's not, I genuinely think the point that Laura Loomer is trying to make here is that Kamala Harris is lying about her race because her Jamaican father, who was born in Jamaica, who we have photos of, who is alive today, isn't black. I genuinely think that is the point that is being made. You guys really, really, really underestimate the level of hysteria that we're dealing with here, okay? Like, they know they're lying, but that doesn't stop them.
And one thing, as we discussed, many of these people are coming in from mental institutions, from prisons, from jails. They're gang members in other countries.
Have you seen the people speculating that the reason Donald Trump has been insanely fixated on the rhetoric, that there are, like, Colombian insane asylums, like Arkham Asylum, it like breaking loose and coming up, is because he doesn't know what political asylum is? Like asylum seekers, and then he's like, oh, like Arkham, because this is new, much like the migrant crime wave rhetoric, which was only invented a little less than a year ago. The rhetoric of them coming up from insane asylums, a thing that is not happening, that might be it. That might be why.
Other countries are setting loose their prisoners. They're opening up their prisons and their mental institutions.
See, like he says it in every speech now, multiple times in every speech. It's a shame that debates aren't a real thing anymore, and nobody does debates because people on the right all know they're lying, so they know there's no point in trying to defend their beliefs with a debate. But I would really like to see any of them explain away the mental asylum claim. Like, where is that? Like, can somebody play? I would just like to see a right-winger attempt to explain that.
And they're taking their bad people, drug dealers, gang members, and they're bringing them into the United States. And by the way, their crime rate is going down, and our crime rate is going to be
down. Our crime rate is going down by quite a bit. In 2023, it dropped significantly. It's down this year as well. That's something that's demonstrably false, right? When has something being demonstrably false ever had any impact on whether Republicans say it confidently?
A disaster.
Mr. President, I want to get into how you address some of the issues with black communities. And I say that plural because we live
this is an issue, by the way, and this is where blue pantsuit lady stands, you know, and serves and so on and so forth. They really need to just insult him. You can't let Trump get away with these insane 70 million illegal immigrants. Crime is going up. They're coming in from insane asylums. You can't just let him say shit like that without going like everything you said's factually wrong. Repeating it as many times as you like doesn't make it correct. You like you have to push back on it directly. Pink Lady is from Fox. Is she? I guess that would explain why Trump's talked to her before.
communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
Sure.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts, and this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now. The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a 52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single black moms.
Guys, you know what's going to be great for American inflation? You know what's going to be deflationary? A trade war with China. Are you guys ready for there to be 10, 15, 20% tariffs on like half the shit that we get in from that country? That'll definitely lower prices. I'm ready.
When you look statistically, how do you turn it around? What's your plan for the black community when it comes to money?
So, first of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, you know, this woman was unable to get the right equipment.
He's such a queen, dude. He's such a queen. He's so funny, man.
But it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other word. It's very difficult, actually. But so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it. The inflation is absolutely destroying our middle class, our working class, virtually every class. Inflation is a disaster in our country. Inflation is a country buster. It breaks every country. And we had, in my opinion, the worst inflation we've had. They say it's 58 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's been devastating. And if you just take a look at a lot of things they don't include, like interest rates. Interest rates went from 2.4% to 10%, and you can't get the money. People can't buy houses. They no longer have the American dream. Young people, young black people, they don't have the American dream anymore. They can't buy a house. They can't borrow the money because of the cost of the money. They can't buy it because of the cost of housing, because of the cost to build it, because of inflation. Inflation is
not the reason why the cost of construction has gone up. It's largely a local thing. The cost of the money, yeah. That's true. That's true, man. It's largely a local thing and has to do with zoning laws and what have you. There's plenty of construction that's being done in like bum Nowheresville in America. You know, there are McMansions being built that you can buy for $500,000 somewhere in like rural Colorado or whatever, you know? The issue is land, not housing. It's not construction. It's like zoning policy.
A disaster, and it's destroying our country, and it's destroying the black community probably as much or more than any.
What's your plan?
You know what we have to do? We have to bring down the cost of energy, and that's going to bring down the cost of inflation. This was all started with a bad energy policy.
We are already energy independent in terms of our like imports versus exports. The reason that we're not functionally energy independent is because of shenanigans. Like we've already subsidized the fossil fuel industry. So isn't it crazy? Like 50% of Republicans' answers to economic questions are, we need to subsidize oil and gas more. And the other 50% of their answers are, we need to tax the rich less. That's literally it. And yet we still pay out the ass for gasoline. I'm going to hit you with it, folks. Good! We pay less for gasoline than like anyone in Europe does. We already subsidize the fuck out of it. It should be more expensive. Get on a bus. Get on a bicycle, fatty. Mush. $20 a gallon. Maybe if gas wasn't so artificially cheap, we could actually invest in public transit rather than letting everyone rely on... You know how expensive it is for every single American to have 1 or 2 cars? Do you have any idea how inefficient it is for everyone's mode of transportation to be a collective, like, $80,000 of metal that you have to constantly fuel and refuel and repair and so on and so forth? This is such a city take. Yeah, it is, mother... Because cities are the future and you're in the past. Go drag your wagon, okay? Go take 2.5 days along the forest trail. Bring your vegetables to market, okay? F you. This is such a city take. Oh, no, I'm a rural American and I think we should subsidize gas more. F you.
His poll numbers crashed. And instead of saying, you know, let's keep going and maybe something happens the other way, they said, oh, we're going to replace him. Let's just replace him. That's like you're in a fight. A prize fighter's in a fight. He's not doing where you say, let's bring in another fighter. So our whole campaign...
You actually can do that. He's so bitter about having to run against Kamala. Oh, 100%.
...campaign was steered toward him, and now we have to steer toward him. But ultimately, it's the same because they have bad policy. They have policies of open borders, unbelievable open borders, horrible energy policies. They want to get rid of, as you say, gasoline in cars. They want to get rid of oil. They want to get rid of efficient heating.
Mr. President.
Environmentally, what they're doing is killing our country. They're absolutely destroying our country. But the inflation is the thing that's hurting the black worker, the black population, and every other population within our country. Inflation is the worst it's been, I think, in over 100 years. And they'll fact check it. They'll say it's only 58. Whatever it may be, they don't add all the numbers. They don't add the really bad numbers, and you can check that too. But inflation, Harris, is absolutely destroying this country and the people in our country. Yes,
Mr. President, can I ask you another question
Yes,
that is also impacting black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me.
I'm not even on Trump's side, but I'm over here being like, how far is it going to go, man? How far? You know, I'm like holding my breath, being like, okay. I mean, politically, it would be beneficial if he owned up to that level of racism, but, you know,
To me, are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again, why would...
Are they going to be charging the officer?
I like how he said with the water, and then he did a swinging motion, which something that would only make sense if he had consumed media talking about how she had attempted to throw boiling water onto the officer, something that she didn't did. You see that? He did a swinging motion. What he would only do that if he was consuming media that was defending the officer. That she didn't did. That she didn't did!
I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people
you
that
said they should have
in much
immunity.
different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example...
That's not how immunity works. Immunity isn't conditional if you just give them immunity. Like, oh, well, obviously the police officer wouldn't have immunity in this case. That's what immunity is.
A few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back in this particular... That's
going to lower the crime rate, which is already lower, by the way. Respect and dignity being given to police officers. That's so true. That will lower the... that's how that works.
Case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So, can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I
love the open admission, by the way, that the thing protecting police officers is not the law, but rather their gang. Oh, well, normally officers are protected by other police officers. Oh, I thought we were pretending we lived in a society of equal legal footing where all of us were subject to the law. But okay, pretty straightforward there.
Felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake,
please ask him what he means by innocent mistake. I would love to know. And then when he follows up with like, oh, if you accidentally, I don't know, rough someone up too much, then you ask him, can you give an example of an officer who was fired for doing that?
I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
you
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
Somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous, and you know they have the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of
sometimes very bad decisions were made. I thought it was a little mistake. Now it's very bad decisions are made. Isn't that, shouldn't an officer be judged by their judgment? Like, is that, what job is like, oh yeah, they made a very bad decision, but you know, it was just a bad decision, so they weren't being evil, so I think that, like, obviously this is still really bad for Trump because he doesn't really have a policy platform outside of benefit wealthy people, fossil fuels, and be racist. That being said, I really, 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 really wish these journalists would just treat him like the child that he is. They should be interrupting him when he goes off topic. They should be reiterating the point. They should be asking like pointed follow-up questions. They should be Socratic methoding him. They should be mocking him when he gets stuff wrong. Like, what I don't understand what the consequences are to not doing that. You're the NABJ and you're in Chicago, right? Like, you're not... he came in here, you have like a layup opportunity, you know?
A mistake.
So I want to follow up really quickly. I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that skepticism apply to law enforcement?
Well, I've been prosecuted because I'm a political opponent of two people that have weaponized our justice system. I've been prosecuted. I just won the big case in Florida. Everyone said that was the biggest case. That was the most difficult case. And I just won it. Now, Biden has a similar case, except much worse. I was protected under the Presidential Records Act. Biden wasn't, because he wasn't president at the time. And he had 50 years worth of documents. And they ruled that
you weren't president at the time that you hid the documents from the presidential records, from the feds. You were out of office.
He was incompetent, and therefore he shouldn't stand trial. And I said, isn't that something? He's incompetent, and he can't stand trial, and yet he can be president. Isn't that nice?
Mr. President,
but they released him on the basis that he was incompetent. They said he had no memory, and he was a nice old guy, but he had no memory, and therefore we're not going to prosecute him. I won the case, and it got very little publicity. I didn't notice ABC doing any publicity on it, George.
We covered you extensively, sir. I'd love to move over on to different topics.
I didn't notice you do any publicity on it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This is an attack on a political opponent. I have another one where I have a hostile judge.
We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different topics.
Excuse me, you're the one that held me up for 35 minutes, just so you understand.
If we can move on now to the state of the race, sir, I want to get back to the campaign. Senator JD Vance is your running mate. He's had a lot of controversy lately, and I want to read you a few things that he has said in the past. He said the Democrats running the country are a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too.
Lou Reporter is doing what you wanted, only to an extent. I know there are probably limits to how mean they can be given the circumstances and the organization and I'm sure there's a lot of like specifics that I don't know, but like, man, it genuinely is crazy how Donald Trump can just do the whole they're sending 50 trillion rapists and insane asylum escapees over the border, and that just goes completely unchallenged, you know? My standards are too high when it comes to holding people to account in a live audience setting.
He's not talking here about how great it is to be a parent. He's attacking what he says are the choices people are making to not have children. Did you know that he had these views about people who do not have children before you picked him to be your running mate? And do you agree with him?
No, I know this. He is very family oriented, and he thinks family is a great thing. That doesn't mean he thinks.
I'm so sorry. Does anyone have a link to the interview where JD Vance is confronted and told, hey, there are some like racists in the Republican Party who don't like that your wife isn't white? And he said something along the lines of, yeah, she's not white, but, you know, I still love her. I'm not joking. Does anyone have that link for the Family Guy?
That if you don't have a family, it's not. I know people with families. I know people with great families. I know people with very troubled families. And I also know people with no families. They didn't meet the right person. Things happen. You go through life, you don't meet the right person.
But he's not just talking about families here.
And
he also says that people that don't have children should get less votes than those that do.
I'm just speaking for myself.
Is that your
and I think
position?
I'm speaking for him, too. He strongly believes in family. But I know people with great families. I know people with not great families that don't have a family. And the people without the family are far better. They're superior in many cases, okay? He's not saying they're not. What he's saying is that he thinks the family experience is a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But that doesn't mean that if you grow up and you grow older and you don't meet somebody that would be wonderful to meet and would have been good, that's a bad thing. He's not saying that. My interpretation, you'll have to ask him, actually, but my interpretation is he's strongly family-oriented. But that doesn't mean if you don't have a family, there's something wrong with it.
Just one last point.
Is this it? I don't think this is it.
Immigrants posted
that she still loves Paul. Clearly, Usha Vance. This is going to be an interesting storyline to follow.
No, it's a video. JD Vance says it himself. It's this one. No, it's not. What? Don't say shit that it's not. I specifically describe what it is. Why would you waste my time? It's just an attack against me. Here we go.
I love her. Look, I love my wife so much. I love her because she's who she is. Obviously, she's not a white person, and we've been attacked by some white supremacists over that. But I love Usha.
But holy shit, dude! He really is like a internet groiper. Like many such cases, 50,000th example of it turns out that the Hyperborean ultra-racist Aryan supremacist is actually married to or themselves a non-white person. Never ask a Nazi to race their girlfriend. True! Genuinely, you need to like try to wrestle with it. What is going on in his head for him to have said, yeah, she's not a white person, but... That is not a normal thing to say at all. In addition to the obvious fact that he's racist, right? He knows that white supremacy is a core tenet of Trump's support, and he actually is capitulating that point. You know what I mean? Like, the way he talks about it, it's like an apology. Yeah, I know she's not white, but, you know, it's exactly the way that you would talk to, like, a racist parent. If you had a partner of a different race, but you still wanted to be on good terms with your parent.
And then we'll move on. Just one of the bedrock principles of American life is one person, one vote. Senator JD Vance has suggested that someone who has children should have more votes than a person who does not have children. I just want to be clear here. Is that the position of your campaign?
Well, no, but it's not something I have ever heard before. I can tell you this. Right now you have illegal aliens coming into our country, and many from prisons and many from mental institutions, and they want to give them votes. I don't think they should have votes. They came into our country illegally, and they're taking the vote away from all of the people in this room that have been here a long time, that have worked hard, that in many cases, and you'll see this happening, if I'm not elected, you're going to see it.
See, she should be pushing much more aggressively against this, too. Like, no. When you won in 2016, you said 3 million illegals voted. You did a study. None were, like, you did an investigation. You were able to find no instances of voter fraud. Like, where is this evidence, you know?
So if I am, you're not going to have any problem. But you're going to see it happening. a long time. You're going to see the people in this room and people outside of this room are going to be losing their jobs to people that have come into this country illegally.
Mr. President, can we stay with just kind of the state of the race right now? Because I felt like that vice president question, candidate question was right in there with that. Yeah. So let's talk about JD Vance for a little bit. He's had some stumbles out of the gate. I don't know if you're hearing what we hear as reporters, but it's been a tough couple of weeks for him. Why did you choose JD Vance?
Why
did you choose him? And I'm having a hard time hearing too. I know everybody out there can, but it's hard.
I'll tell you why. I chose him because he's a very strong believer in work and the working man and woman, and especially the working man and woman who have been treated very unfairly, because you have many of them in this room. But you have many of those people, they were treated very unfairly. They worked very hard and they were treated unfairly. He wrote the book that became a bestseller. The movie became a smash hit. He's a very smart guy without the benefit
wants to know
of
the
having
secret?
a family that has contacts, like a father that was well connected. He got into Yale Law School. He graduated in 2 years from Ohio State, summa cum laude. I mean, you take a look at, his career has been an amazing career. He started off at a level with a difficult family situation, very difficult with the mother and the father and everything else. He ends up going to Yale Law School and was one of the top students, became the head of the Law Journal. I mean, it's an amazing thing. He's a 4-year,
He's been coached. Donald Trump would never care about or even care to remember any of these details. He would just say, like, JD Vance is the bigliest man of all time, except for me, of course, haha. He's been coached on all of this. He knows that JD Vance is a massive weakness for his campaign right now. They were more confident 2 weeks ago. JD Vance was probably like the GOP Heritage Foundation, surrogate plant pick as a way of making sure they got their Project 2025 business done, some puppet they could move around. And now that Kamala Harris is running instead of Biden, they're running a tougher race. They're not as confident about running him. They coach Trump. You're going to be asked why you picked this guy who's such an electoral, handicap. Why? And he's just running through the list right now.
In the military with great distinction for 4 years, got out, went into business, became successful in business, very successful in business, actually, did public offerings and other things. And I have to believe in that. I mean, he's somebody that was born in a rough situation. Most of the people know that situation because it was very well documented in his book. And I have a lot of respect for somebody that can get into Yale and become one of the best students in Yale, that meets a young woman at Yale who was also outstanding, and they get married, they have a beautiful family, but he had he's made himself an amazing life. He then goes to Ohio, lives in Ohio, and he had my endorsement. That helped. But he wins the Senate. He becomes a United States Senator. So he's a United States Senator. And so, Harris, like I respect you for your success, I respect people for their success.
The reason I asked the question is because
it's genuinely like he's reading from a teleprompter. It doesn't sound like anything he would improv at all. It's really funny, genuinely, the extent to which Trump has been, the JD Vance has been a liability.
The last time you and I sat and talked was the day that you were shot. We'd been together for much of that day. You left to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And 2 days after that,
I cannot understand your microphone.
I know it is really hard for me to understand you too.
I can understand you perfectly.
Push this closer.
I can understand you.
I'm happy to hear that, sir.
But I can't
really
understand, Harris.
I have a few more questions.
Because of the distance, and the mics are really in lousy shape, but I cannot understand
Are you asking a question?
what you're saying.
So what I wanted to say was the last time we spoke, you said some words that were prophetic because I asked you who you wanted to choose for vice president.
Yeah.
And you said normally it really wouldn't matter what they would bring. You choose somebody that you think has a future, that sort of thing. But you said these words.
Did Trump just grab her water? Yes.
3.5 hours before an attempted assassination on your life, you told me that bad things happen, Harris, and that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen. You said it twice. When you look at JD Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready on day one, if he has to be.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact. You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson mattered for different reasons of what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think JD is. I think that all of them would have been. But
wow, this section is boring. Even his defense of JD Vance is a reminder of how weak of a pick JD Vance is. This is crazy, man. Like, it's like dull nothing. Like, how do I defend JD Vance to the electorate? Like, he's here to appeal to black voters. Well, he went to school and he wrote a book. Holy shit, who cares, man? Askers, I'm snoring over here.
You're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for me. If you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in.
JD Vance?
I'm going to get my JD Vance question in. To your point and to Rachel's point, he, has a lot of opinions about childless women like myself or divorced people like yourself. Do you think, I mean, my point is here.
But at least it was said in a friendly manner.
My point is, do you think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what JD Vance is saying?
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month. They're allowing the death.
I think it's
they're
about
allowing
freedom,
the death of a baby after the baby is born, based on.
So hold on. Not only is this not an answer to the question, it's actually a reassertion of the question's premise, because the question was, do you feel like you're getting too judgy, you're meddling too much in people's lives? And his response is, I think we need to meddle in people's lives more because, people are allowed to get an abortion. If Republicans actually gave a shit about the so-called 9th month abortions, the super common and frequent late-term abortions, then Republicans would just want a national mandate of a 6-month abortion limit. Don't fall for their bullshit. Republicans think that an abortion is just as bad whether it happens in the 1st month or the 9th month. From their perspective, it's equally a life. Any claim they make to we think it's a travesty, 9th month, it's happening right as they're born, they think that's the same as you taking an abortion pill. The Republican line on abortion is informed by the current evangelical Christian attitude on the subject, which is that life begins at conception and that life is life because life is a divine concept, not a biological one. Well, it's both, I suppose. But the thing they're defending here is sort of a divine soul that begins at conception. So the 9th month shit is bullshit. If they really cared about the late-term abortions, they would just want a limited 6 months. That's it. But they don't. They want a total abortion ban. Even though they're backing off that in rhetoric, JD Vance was a big no abortions ever guy, no exceptions, but he recently scrubbed his website. I guess they realized that it was too much of sort of electoral weakness to be that open and straightforward about dragging people's rights back that far.
Sir, that is illegal in every state in the country.
Based on the governor of Virginia, they're allowing the death of the baby after it's born. They're allowing abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well, Democrats have denied.
I think they're right.
After it's born, they're allowing abortions in the 8th and 9th. But what does that even mean? What? Folks, they're inducing early birth and then they're aborting the early birth.
And I think the Republican Party is actually much less. I think I've made them much less radical, perhaps. But the Republican Party, what we're doing is bringing it back to the states where everybody wanted it. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted abortion brought back. They didn't want Roe v. Wade in the federal government. They wanted it everybody.
This is fantastic. Please keep talking, sir. As your lawyer, please keep saying that the average American didn't want Roe v. Wade. Don't look at any polling on the subject, okay? Please don't look at, like, even in red states, a majority of people, in basically in every demographic across America, every group, everyone wanted Roe v. Wade to stay, you know? Please keep posting this shit as your lawyer.
But the majority of Americans oppose Roe v. Wade being overturned.
They don't know about this. Right now, they're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the three exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed with rape, incest, life of the mother. I do. I think most people do. I think most Republicans do also. But if you take a look, right now they're doing...
Unless you ask Republicans.
It's an amazing thing. Out of the federal government, it's in states, and people are voting. And I will say, Ohio is, let's call it a more liberal version, has been approved. Kansas, the same thing, a little bit.
Bosch, he's doing what you say Democrats do, explaining why you should like what he's doing. Yes, and that's why this has been so bad for him. This interview makes him look terrible. Rather than him, like, loudly and aggressively proclaiming how it's all great, we're going to make it greater, he's sitting here being like, everyone wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. Well, okay, don't look at the polls. Yeah, everyone's happy with how this went. When you force him to sit down and explain the details of what he's done and what he wants, it goes from grandiose bragging to pathetic, dishonest wheedling very quickly, which is why you have to challenge him. Now, I still think they're not challenging him enough, but still, this is a lot better, right? This is a lot better.
Surprising to a lot of people, but the people are now voting, and it's taking this issue that's been going on for 52 years and has torn our country apart, and it's giving it to the people to vote on, and they're voting. And many states have already voted. Others are in the process of voting, and it's bringing it back to the people and a vote of the people. And it's not at all radical. And again, you have to follow your heart. I happen to believe in the three exceptions. Most people believe in the three exceptions. Most Republicans believe in the exceptions. But they don't want to see an abortion in the 9th month or the 8th month. Almost everybody agrees.
And yet somehow, again, if you actually believe that was the issue, you weren't instituting federal policy on limiting abortions past the 6th month. Crazy, man. If you look at literally any polling on the subject, after the Dobbs case, after Roe v. Wade was overturned, support for the right to illegal abortion has creeped up by a few percentage points. The American public is not swaying on this. It's not shifting. Like, even after, only 36% of Americans believe that abortion should be illegal in all/most cases. And if you're taking a look at only people who believe it should be split in, that it should be illegal in all cases, the number goes way the down. JD Vance pushes for that, illegal in all cases. And this is just support for abortion, not even the Roe v. Wade decision. Oh, I think this is the same poll. Partisan divide over abortions widened, percentage should be legal. Even 41% of Republicans, man. The pro-life movement won the legal battle but lost the culture war. Kind of the same with gay marriage. Like, the official Republican line on the subject is still no more gay marriage. Like, every single state Republican Party supports the overturn of the right to gay marriage. But support for gay marriage itself has just done nothing but go up. Trying to look at the most recent Pew Research. About 6 in 10, 61% of Americans say legalization of same-sex marriage is good for society. 3% having apparently no answer on the subject. Trump coping about being weird. Dude, the weird line has been very powerful. They really don't like this one. If you call a Republican racist, they'll be like, what? Racist? You're the real racist. But by the way, I am a little racist, and we love our racism, don't we, folks? But if you call them weird, they can't really engage with that the same.
Well, they're the weird ones, and if you've ever seen her with the laugh and everything else, that's a weird deal going on there. They're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not. And I'm
they get really defensive.
And he's not either, I will tell you. JD is not at all.
Please keep posting this shit. Oh yeah, I know this guy.
Realistic, just life
The
level.
JD Wire guy.
There is a sense in which the central purpose of every society is to figure out the distribution of women, because women are valuable. They're valuable not just for their company and for their way of looking at things and for sex, which is a lot of fun, but also because they are the only...
Guys, Republicans aren't weird. They're not weird, okay? I love how the line of we should have state-mandated girlfriends, which began as an internet joke, has not only been normalized in reactionary circles, but that line of logic is mainstream reactionary thinking on women now. The idea of like the pure commodification of women and the baseline need for every man to have a woman like mandated regardless of the consent of the woman.
Path there is to continuing your genetic inheritance. That is the way it is. When men want women on this kind of basic animalistic, just life level,
they're not weird,
reproduce,
guys.
right? The government wants to tell you that
you will this is one of the heads of the Daily Wire. You will never find Democrats, just random Democrat pundits, say any shit even remotely like you go to like a Democrat pundit and they're doing like a catch me outside, how about that joke that would have been dated 5 years ago about going to vote for Kamala Harris. And then you go to your average Republican pundit and they're talking about how in Rome you were allowed to have child brides to continue your genetic legacy or something. That's not even a joke. That's literally not, that's not even a exaggeration. That's actually like the difference that you see. It's crazy.
people who want the power concentrated all in one place to get all the women, they want to tell you is that women can take care of themselves. And women hate the idea that they can't take care of themselves, but women cannot take care of themselves.
Jesus Christ, man. Remember, again, the bedrock of fascism is sexual insecurity. What, like every male sexual insecurity is the foundation upon which fascism is built every single time.
Smaller, weaker. Men are stronger. Men are mean. They're more aggressive. They will take them over. They'll do it anytime they can, anywhere.
They will take them over. Rapist.
That, and they certainly don't want to see, in the case of the governor of Virginia, the former governor, I might add, who said, we set the baby aside and then we decide what to do, meaning, what do? We execute.
We should just kill men. Muted for Fed posting, even when you're correct. There you go.
The baby. That's a radical, horrible position. And so
I'm not saying misandry is good. I'm only saying that it is true that men overwhelmingly commit the majority of violence. If you go online, the people who harass and degrade you are overwhelmingly likely to be men, far more likely to predate or attack or stalk. Politically, the bedrock of basically every bad social movement. And when you see right-wing female pundits, they only exist as tokens to appeal to a male audience. You know, I'm not saying you should be misinterest. I'm pointing out a lot of curious facts. I'm a noticer. I'm noticing things, you know?
People,
despite making up 50% of the population, men, sorry.
Some people want that. I don't want it. Most people don't.
Thank you. Can I just pivot really quickly to another question about, you brought up health, Harris. You're an active man. We see you golfing all the time. But if you win, you'll still be president at 82, which is older than Biden is right now.
But not mentally. Look, mentally.
Here's the question.
He's shot. But most people.
Would you consider?
Most people. I know many people in their 80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders. You look at throughout the world history, the greatest leaders. Some of the greatest leaders in the world were in their 80s.
But here's the question: would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would?
I think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know. Look, if I came onto a stage
make
like
him
this
draw
and I
a
got
clock.
treated so rudely as this woman treated
Oh my goodness.
And I'm fine with it because she was very rude, sir. Very rude. That was a nasty. That wasn't a.
Remember when journalists used to be firebrands, man? It's just like crazy to me because they could ruin Trump if the woman in blue literally just said, "Why are you such a bitch?" I know, but we're playing for high stakes here, man. Like, come on, he's such a baby. He's such a petty baby.
Question. She
Sir,
didn't ask me a question. She gave a statement. That wasn't a question.
I repeated your statement, sir, actually.
You said you would. You would.
Oh,
make that
absolutely.
decision
If I
to step
thought
down.
that I was failing in some way, I want people to be sure.
But then she'd be harassed by Trump supporters in very racist ways. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that journalism, the sacred art of holding power to account, should should account for, well, what if people don't like me holding a presidential candidate's feet to the fire? And it's not like she's not going to be subject to racism after this anyway.
I'll go a step further. I want anybody running for president to take an aptitude test, to take a cognitive test. I think it's a great idea. And I took 2 of them and I aced them.
Well,
I took 2 of them. But let me ask you.
Yeah.
I would like to have people running for president, and I don't mean because they're 75 or 85. I think anybody running, I'd like to do it. People say it's not constitutional. I would like to have something passed where you can do it. I think we should know. I mean, I've watched what's happened in the last couple of years under this gentleman, and our country is a mess. We have inflation. We have
and there we go again, down the dialogue tree.
We have Afghanistan, which was the worst, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. What he has done to our country, and her too, what they've done to our country, she has been a horrible vice president. She's considered the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Don't mean to interrupt you, but would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President,
I would love to
and
do
make
it.
it public.
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
Mr. President, how do you intend to...
I suggested, Harris, that let's take one. I said, Joe and I will go and take a cognitive test. Now, I'd do it with her, too. I would do it with her also. You know what? She failed her law exam. She didn't pass her law exam, so maybe she wouldn't pass the cognitive test.
Mr. President,
Are you saying she wouldn't pass? Just to be clear,
I'm just giving you the facts.
To be clear, you don't think Harris...
How do you intend...
She didn't pass her bar exam. And she didn't think she would pass it, and she didn't think she was going to ever pass it. And I don't know what happened. Maybe she passed it.
She did pass it.
There's a man over here. I think he must work.
Mr. President, I would love to ask you about January 6th. You've called yourself the candidate of law and order.
Yeah.
When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said yes. Absolutely.
Doing such a great job of winning the black vote. Yeah, no, it genuinely, this has been like a hilarious upset.
Absolutely. Sure. You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones. At least 1 officer lost an eye. 1 had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs. Another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring...
I'm telling you, folks, okay? They're calling it the greatest and most bipartisan plan ever put to action. Total police immunity, but only for Capitol Police doing whatever to right-wingers when they're trying their insurrections, okay? How about that, folks? How about that? You get your police immunity, all right? Next January 6th, January 6th too, they're calling it January 7th, possibly January 14th, depending on whether you're multiplying or adding. It depends on which sort of sign you put between the 6 and the 2. You see the Republicans run on up there. Did I say 14? I was thinking 7 + 1 × 2. I got lost in the sauce. That would be January 6th to the 2nd. You add. Wait, I'm gonna go take a piss. I'm gonna let all you stew on the fact that you people are watching me right now. All right, have we all lowered our standards and accepted the fact that the person who you watch and get your political information from is not only of perhaps middling intelligence, but actually is in fact the stupidest man on earth? Are we fine with this? Are we okay? Are we moving forward with this knowledge? I don't want to hear any business about this again, okay? I get something wrong. I make a mistake, a catastrophic mistake, even life-ending. I'm just a little baby boy. I don't only watch you. Yeah, you're a white name. We know you're disloyal.
It back to modern day, like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol, a horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint that will never actually come off.
Guys, I'm starting to get the feeling that Donald Trump doesn't think that January 6th was a bad thing.
Especially in the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff. It'll never.
Yeah? Okay. That's crazy, dude.
You'll see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to the people that tried to
rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to ask,
would you pardon those people?
What's going to happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just they were convicted by a very tough system. How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis, how come the people that...
They burned down Minneapolis. It doesn't exist anymore. Notice, by the way, how much he bristled when people laughed. That's why mockery is the only thing that matters. What are we trying to do? Hold his feet to the fire? He's openly in favor of January 6th. There's no ambiguity to his position here. What you want to do is break him. Look, look at the way he reacted to that.
They were convicted by a very...
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just they were convicted by...
See? A little bit of that'll shut him the fuck up. He'll talk over other people, but for a man who does everything for the applause, he cannot stand being laughed at.
A very tough system. How come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis, how come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle?
Large percentage, a single like park and the street next to it. Vibrant area if you go there, by the way, now. The Cal Anderson Park, I think, in Cap Hill. Yeah. Literally like a block of it. God, Chaz was funny. Oh, by the way, Donald Trump, please keep talking about how Black Lives Matter was just like January 6th. Actually worse than January 6th at the National Association of Black Journalists. Please, this is going wonderfully for Georgia.
How come nothing happened to them? How come the people...
But sir, we're talking about people that were seen beating officers with flagpoles, dragging them down the stairs. They're on video. Have you seen that video, sir?
Oh, really? Well, you would pardon
those rioters?
They shot a young lady in the face.
Yeah, maybe she shouldn't have been breaking into the Capitol. I don't know, a bit of a skill issue. I've never been shot in the face. I've never tried to break into the Capitol building. Frankly, you know, to me, it's kind of, you've got like a one-to-one deal here. I don't know about that one. I feel like Ashley Babbitt kind of, I don't know. Look, I'm not saying she had it coming. All I'm saying is maybe if you don't want to get shot in the face, don't try to violently overthrow the government. You know.
Who was protesting, they shot her in the face. You know, nobody died that day. You do know that. But people died in Seattle.
Well, no, Ashley, but I mean, if you want to call her not a person, you know, you said it, not me.
Nobody died, but people died in Minneapolis. You know, people died in Minneapolis, and nothing happens, and nobody ever talks, and nothing happens to those people. But you went after the J6 people with a vengeance, and I'll tell you what about the cops that were, and I'm all for the police, as you know, but what about the police that are ushering everybody into the Capitol? Go in, go in, go in. What about that? Look, nothing is perfect in life. But you have people from Minneapolis. You have people just from 5 days ago.
Guys, I'm starting to think that Donald Trump might be in favor of January 6th.
In Washington, D.C., they were having fistfights and fighting with the police. They were spraying and destroying. They were desecrating our monuments in Washington, D.C. 5 days ago, and nothing happened to them. And you can't have two systems of justice. That's why they went after me as a political opponent, because they felt they couldn't win without doing that. And we're going to win our cases, and we're going to be vindicated. But I have to spend a lot of time on that and money. That's what they want. After the election, they won't care. Although in my case, I think they probably will, because the hatred is pretty deep. But I'll tell you, they went after me as a political opponent. That's never happened in our country before, and it sets a terrible, terrible precedent.
What do you do on day one if you win? What's your first thing?
What do? I close the border. And I do two things, because I can do a lot of things simultaneously. I close the border. We don't want people coming. We want people to come in, Harris, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. They have to come in legally. We want people.
Sorry, I don't have a memory for this. Is there anyone here on the panel named Harris, or is he just talking about Kamala Harris and he's looking at black women? The Fox knows his name here. Okay, gotcha, guy. I wanted to make sure because it would admittedly, pardon me for being partisan, be extremely funny if he was just staring at 3 black women and he was like, "Listen, Kamala," you know. But I'm just with a little bit of belief.
I want people to come into our country, but they have to be vetted. They have to be checked. So when you say, what do? That, and I drill, baby, drill. I bring energy way down. I bring
energy way down.
Interest rates are down. I bring inflation way down so people can buy bacon again, so people can buy a ham sandwich again,
America.
so that people can go to a restaurant and afford it. Because right now people can't buy food.
It's so American. Literally, the prospective president of the United States, drill, baby, drill, so people can buy bacon again. That is like an actual on the books express description of preferred policy. Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Grocery bills are up 40, 50, 60%, right? She's agreeing to me. Oh, she's agreeing. Thank you. I like you very much.
Mr. President, I think we are.
But it's true. Your grocery bills are up. And then they're mandating that you buy an all-electric car. You know, Elon Musk endorsed me, and he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. He's a smart guy.
You two are not friends, mother. Also, he took back the 180 million he promised you. He promised you 180 million, then he took it back, man, when he realized that he didn't have that money. He does have that money, but he didn't want to sell Tesla stock, I guess. I mean, he took it back either way.
But I'm against everybody having an electric car, okay? I'm very much against that. You have to be able to, if you want a hybrid or if you want a gasoline-propelled car. But, you know, we have more liquid gold, gasoline, oil, under our feet than any other country. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than any other country. I want to use it. I want to use what we have. I want to bring down prices, bring down costs, and I also have to stop the invasion. And remember, they're taking your jobs. These people coming in are taking your jobs.
2025.
I think we have to leave it there by the Trump team.
All right.
So leave it. That is the last word. Thank you so much, Mr. Trump, for coming today and joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
They've been telling us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, very much. Great
Thank you,
honor.
Mr. President.
Thank you.
Any will email about details regarding the conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris.
Don't you copyright on me. Did he skip shaking hands with the lady in blue because she's a nasty, mean lady? Because she's a nasty woman! I think they should have gone harder, but this is still pretty disastrous for him. Literally nobody who wasn't already going to vote for him like this. And folks, I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. Some of you, I can see it, you know, you race baiters, you clip chimpers, you're going to say, oh, he's making disparaging comments about the black electorate. Well, I make these comments about the entire electorate. I just want to make it clear. The average voter in America of any race is a moron. And I think that it benefits us to see direct, I would say intimate examples of Donald Trump talking down to and being rude to a black woman. Black women are kind of like the mortar that holds together the bricks of American democracy, folks. I'm just saying, they put the work in. If I feel like, because I've seen clips recycling, you know, or not cycling, recirculating of Donald Trump, you know, nasty woman, this woman, she's very rude to me, that kind of thing. Nobody likes to see direct examples of that, you know? Like, imagine, for example, what might happen electorally if Donald Trump ever met with, like, a gamer and talked down to him directly. Ah, you're a loser. You play video games instead of going to Epstein's Island like me. Loser. Even if he didn't say or offer anything new, I feel like he might push some people away, is what I'm saying. I really hope this energizes the population, specifically black women, because that's kind of the directly affected in terms of like the, you know, the clips and what have you, but people broadly. He looked really bad here. He looked really bad here. Funny you should say that. Aiden Ross is going to interview him. Can't really say that matters much electorally because the median Aiden Ross viewer is 12, and already, if they are old enough to vote, anyone watching Aiden Ross who's old enough to vote is already a right-winger and, let's say, probably would share some of Donald Trump's preferences and values when it comes to women and their ages. So I'm not too worried about that one. Honestly, kind of makes him look desperate, right? Like, Aiden Ross, seriously? The Andrew Tate chair sniffer? That guy? Come on. I guess it's nice that if you circle the drain long enough, basically every single right-wing pundit is competing for the same audience of like incel Nazi pedophile men with no IRL friends and a disposable income from like a tech job, right? That like it's literally all that same crowd. That's the reason why right-wing grifters like emerge and then burn out in no time. You know? Seriously, think about it. How many left-wing Roman candle cases can you think of? People who really quickly gain an audience and then like boom, and you don't hear about them anymore. I can't think of that many. It happens sometimes. It's part of life. But on the right, this shit is like daily, dude. There was that woman who like got 5 days of right-wing fame after saying the N-word, but then people were like, you foul-mouthed young race traitor, you, and a Jew. I'm not supporting you, you grifter. But it's like every Laura Loomer we saw earlier, nobody gives a fuck about Laura Loomer anymore. What about the swimmer lady, the one who lost to the or the skateboarding lady, the one who lost to the trans woman and also the 7-year-old? Like, she had a moment in the sunshine, and then boom, they all get in, they get their book deal. You know, they're in for a moment, then they're gone, and that's because they're all fighting for the same audience. Riley Gaines as well, the swimmer. You? I've been in it for 5.5 years, man. I'm just as prominent now as I was a few years ago, more or less, you know, a couple percentage points up or down. Subs are up right now, by the way. Thank you. Chloe is another one. I don't even remember. It's just crazy.